My question comes from, I guess, a spiritual journey for me has often meant discovering new ways that myself has grown the box, I guess, per se. I keep finding new ways that my ego has played a part in new places, and almost like an ego request of like, how can I find my ego faster, shows up. I guess I would love kind of some guidance on how to process that, continuous discovery of, where the box is, and how to like fully be in awareness.
Mm. Perhaps this rediscovery of the box is how the sort of, if you like, the Leela is enjoying itself. Yeah? And until that rediscovery, reformation, until it becomes really quite repellent to you because it feels like a poison, it feels like a pollutant, it feels like it's reached its pinnacle of possibility. Until that point comes, there's no need to fight against that rediscovery. Yeah. You're seeing it, and and perhaps there's a certain enjoyment in that, a certain play in that. Yeah. When it becomes the source of suffering, then you can ask that question. Yeah?
Yeah, at this point it's definitely mostly, it's a joyous moment. There's other feelings as well that show up, but it is a joyous moment of like, oh, okay, I see myself more fully. And I can let that new box that I can now see dissolve.
Sure. So there's a kind of ripening process going on, or a kind of cooking process going on. Mm-hmm. And at some point, that process itself will become, in some ways, redundant, or it's kind of fulfilled its purpose. And then the question, how can I know myself as awareness? I know you've already asked it, but I get a sense it might be, in some ways, premature. Yeah? It'll really arise when this box kind of playing out becomes really tedious to you. But until it does, then let it be part of the appearance of the different expressions of the one. Yeah, that's, so what I'm saying here really is, let's not be aggressive towards the ego. Let's not try to get rid of it just because spiritual teachings or somebody like Amoda said that there's a possibility of being free of that. Let's not try, because then that becomes the box as well.
Yes,
now
that's what I'm feeling.
Now I'm spiritual because I really got what he said, what she said, what I read, what I understood, and now I want to do that. And that becomes another identity. So just play with it until it plays itself out. All right?
Thank you.
I think it was Amoda who said something, you have to become really sick and tired of yourself, of the self. Not just as a one-off, I've had enough of this, but really a sort of almost a chronic condition of just listening to your same strategies, the same games, the same avoidances over and over and over and over again until it's like, and then, something, either once or, over time, starts to kind of bust open. I mean, maybe that's the case for everybody, maybe it's not, but certainly there's an experience of that, isn't there, to become sick of your strategies of avoidance, or whatever they are, or seeking, or defining yourself in this new way, So how sick are you of yourself, on a scale of 1 to 10?
I'm fairly sick of it.
Yeah? So are you up at a 7 or
probably a 7 or 8 though.
7 or 8.
Reached, maybe you guys 9
it's
or
the
10.
last 2 digits that make the difference.
I get it.
Because at 9.8, it's intense. Yeah, it doesn't. It's not just equal over the whole 10.
That's right.
It gets seriously. That's a
tipping
fire.
point.
Yeah?
It's a tipping point. There has to come a tipping point which we can't force because we want to be spiritual or we want to be enlightened. Mm-hmm. There's a tipping point within, a sort of psychological tipping point, which I think I described earlier in myself, where my greatest longing, my greatest prayer, if you like, was show me the root of suffering. Again, not because of my story, but just the root of suffering, of the human condition. Just show me that. Yeah? And it was shown. And that created a transformation within. And I'm not saying it's the same for everybody, but there is a tipping point. Yeah. When the story of who you are, who you were, who you could be, who you want to be, who you don't want to be, comes to such an intensity of sickeningness, pollutingness, we can describe it in many ways, then it's like that which was defining itself by those stories comes undone, either for a moment or it embarks on a different inner journey of inquiry. The love of the undoing of that,
yes,
the love of the undoneness
Yeah.
becomes greater than the love of the holding on, the safety or security or habitualness of the holding on. And that's the tipping point. And